Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody, and good evening, depending on where you are. But thank you
Hey,
all so much for being here. And
hello.
let's see, we've got some people joining already. So I am so excited. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Katherine Degram. I'm a fantasy author, and I've been doing a series of indie author live chats since the first of the year, just talking about different genres. But today we have a very special episode because today I am joined by four amazing bilingual authors. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. So, for our viewers' sake, why don't we go around clockwise? Ursula, we'll let you go first. And you could just introduce yourself, tell us what genre you write, and what languages you write.
All right, thank you very much for hosting this. My name is Ursula Weiser. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm writing and publishing in Dutch, that's my mother tongue, of course, and English. And I write in UK English. And up until now, I have 13 books published and four in English. So, yeah,
Wow.
doing all right. Is there
Well,
anything else you'd like to know about me?
yes,
living in
please.
the,
Everybody
I'm
watching.
actually, yeah, I'm living in the eastern part of the Netherlands, very tiny town, about 5 kilometers off the German border. So as a child, I learned to speak German as well,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, so
That's
I've,
amazing.
yeah. Well, it's
So,
easy when you live this close to the German border. So yeah,
so English and Dutch and German.
yep.
Wow. And so, as we're going through, Ursula, what you said reminded me. If anybody watching, because we've got several people watching on Facebook and it looks like on YouTube, and we're also live on Twitter. If you guys have questions while we go through, please drop them in the chat. There's a slight delay between when you put a question when we see it, but when we see it pop up, we'll be happy to answer them. So, it's so good to have you here, Ursula, and
Thank
welcome,
you.
Dario. I'm so excited to have you on the channel because last year you were kind enough to let me join as a guest on one of your book fair lives. So,
Mhm.
why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much, Katherine, for the opportunity again. Absolutely, friends. I'm Dario Aguilar Peregrina. I'm a 24-year-old author from Mexico City, Mexico. And I normally write about many topics, such as LGBT themes, action, drama, comedy, music, and sports, because they are my favorite subjects. And yes, Catherine was with me last year, and absolutely, it was a great experience because many other people told me that they really loved her books. Now they are in Spanish, if you know. Now are in Spanish, so it's nice to see that we can have this exchange between the Latino people and also the American people and other parts of the world. Because as many of my friends and I have said that we really hope that hopefully we have a new boom in the literature world. I mean, examples such as um, Gabriel Garcia Marquez from Colombia, Octavio Paz from Peru, um, Mark Twain in Europe. So I really would like to have these people to really know about other works, because I think Latino people and other parts of the world really have talent. We have really great stories, and maybe it could be a great story to be on the cinema. No, I think.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Yeah, so I love that you're from Mexico, but your English is excellent. And you've written in both languages. And that sort of ties into Constanza. You're, if I remember right, because we've chatted several times,
Yeah.
aren't you
Hi.
originally from the US, but you've been to Mexico?
Well, first of all, it's really nice to meet all of you guys. Really nice to meet you. Well, actually, my story is a bit long, but I will try to summarize it. So, I was born in Chile, in South America, and I came to the U.S. when I was 8 years old, and it was quite a journey. So, I grew up in Illinois, And when I was about 15 years old, I moved back to Chile, South America. So yeah, that's kind of me. That's where I learned English over here.
That's great. And we're so glad to have you here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you write? Because it was the title of your book
Okay.
when I saw it on Instagram, and your cover is how I discovered you,
Thank
because
you.
I was like, oh my goodness, elves,
Thank
spoiler,
you.
elves, and that
Yeah.
really cool cover. So, yeah.
Thank you. That is so sweet of you. I'm so happy that you love the cover. Like I really am because um, when I worked on the design for it, I wasn't quite sure about it. But then I said, you know what? Okay, I just went for it. So I'm really happy that you like it. So I am currently working on epic fantasy. So my first book is epic fantasy genre, and I'm mostly in that area when I do writing because it's like a saga, so it's going to be a long series. So it's really hard to do from that because every time that you create a fantasy world, right, Catherine, we create really big worlds and with lots of characters, and there's so much going on that you have to be constantly connected to that. So yeah, I'm working on that saga. And I wrote my book in English because that's the voice that I think in is in English. We're working on
I think we're losing you a little bit, Constanza.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think we lost you again. I'm sorry. If you can still hear us, Constanza, we'll come back to talk about your little book in a minute too, when we talk about what's coming up for the next year. So it's such an honor, though, seriously, to have you on. And while I'm talking about book covers, really, I noticed everybody's covers first, except for Iris, who I met through Ayakashi Fox, who is on and says hello, everyone, when I did the Japanese culture live. Um, so, yes, Iris, it is such a pleasure to meet you in person. You are not just a writer, but also a book blogger, and do that sort of bilingual too. I've seen your reviews on books in English, your reviews on books in Spanish. So, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you write, and then sort of what you read too.
Uh, well, I'm Ares Velez. I write paranormal romance and fantasy romance, normally with an erotic twist. I also mix mythology into my books. Um, and, well, that's it. I like to read. I basically read everything that I write, plus sci-fi romance. I like almost every subgenre of romance. So historical, everything. It has to be romance. I also like fantasy. I've read epic fantasy and medieval fantasy too. Um, and yes, I have my first book was published in English, Take to Darkness. But my second and my third were in Spanish. My second is a fantasy romance about elves, dark elves, and the third one is an anthology with 8 short stories of paranormal and fantasy romances that I had up in the Wattpad app. So that's about it.
great. So yeah, we've got a little bit of everything, a little bit of all different genres represented today. Um, and it's such a pleasure to be here. We've got some questions that were submitted before the live on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm going to pull those up now and ask you those. But if you're watching and you have questions, please drop those and we'll get to them too. What's really unique about being a bicultural and a bilingual author is something that I love that Constanza said, that she thinks in English in her head. For those of you who don't know, I'm bilingual Japanese English, mostly American English, but I only edit and write in English at this time. You sort of have a primary language in your head. So when I'm thinking, I tend to think in Japanese more than I think in English. But I don't know. I went to college and trained in both languages, and I don't know, I've never thought about just writing in the language you think in, and maybe that's easier. But English seems to be broader market. Japanese is a much more niche art market to me. So I'm interested to hear, while I'm looking at these questions, which I've got right here, what made you guys, you can answer in any order you like, what made you decide to publish in English? Because I believe a lot of you published in English first or shortly after your first book. So why publish in English first?
All right. Who's going to answer first?
Yeah.
Yeah, shall I answer first? All right. So I started publishing books in Dutch, but my last series is a longer series. It is about 5 books in at this current time. And that story just popped up in English in my mind as I was in the UK on holidays. And it just stuck in my head as English. And they are also translated in Dutch. And I have somebody translating it for me. But I tried to do it myself. But because of the story is in English in my head, it's very strange. And although Dutch is my mother language, it is very strange to translate it yourself. I don't know, it doesn't click in my mind. So, yeah.
Yeah. I understand that. That's why I haven't done any of my books in Japanese yet, because it's not just a word for word translation. There's total context differences that don't carry over between the languages, and idioms and phrases that we take for granted, that it's like, no, I'd have to find a Japanese version of this and get the whole meaning done, and that means all these changes. So it's a huge project. How about you, Iris? Why publish in English?
Well, I wanted, it was basically the story, it was freaking long. I wanted to do a whole series of books, about 15 or 20 books, and they really needed a bigger pool to swim in, because I think, that's my opinion, but demon romance doesn't seem to move well in the Latino community. So so I really needed it to be in Spanish. Well, sorry, in English, for it to sell better, to reach more. That was basically why I published, why I started writing title learners in English. Because yes, I wrote it directly to English. I didn't start it in Spanish and then switch. No, because that's really difficult. Translating a story you were supposed to publish. No, I write directly on the language I want to publish.
How about you, Dario? Do you translate your own work? Do you write them just in the language and then rewrite them again?
Yeah. Well, When I first published Hurricanes 2007 back in 2019, I really wanted to be only in Spanish because I thought that many people here in Mexico were going to like the story, and many people actually like the story, but the great corporations of literature here in Mexico, the editorials, told me, okay, your story is good, have great characters, everything's fine, but we thought that your story maybe is not going to work here. So I said, well, thank you for everything. I'm going to write it in English because I told you this story, Catherine, and for all of you people here in the program, my mom sent me to a English school here in Mexico City since I was 3 years old. So I really learned from a very young age this beautiful language, and for of the course of the years, I really thought, okay, maybe I should use this talent to write in English because right now here in Mexico they are not accepting my story. So I wrote Hurricane 707 in English, and at the first time of my first review, I had a harsh review, but a really good review because the message of the book was clearly gotten from other people. But at the same time, they told me you need to improve a little bit of grammar because it's different. Because when you write in Spanish, when you write in English, maybe some words are not going to be the same. So I really need to adapt. And at the end, many people, when they started hearing the story in English, they really love it. And they really gave me a lot of feedback. The writing community in Twitter was great, it was awesome. I want to also give a shout out to Stacy Hawks, one of my friends of the Writing Wall podcast, and Queer Indie. Queer Indie is an organization that really helps other writers that write LGBT stories or other, and they really gave me a lot of feedback, and at the end they invited me to be a part of their organization. And at the end there was an award for other writers like me, and at the end it was a really nice story because I won the prize at the end of Currently. I won last year the speculative fiction with Hurricane 207, and I really love it because many people connected with the story. They said you have great Latino characters, great American characters, great Brazilian, great Peruvian, so many great characters, and I really love that. And that's why the story right now is on the third book, and I'm writing the translation. But that's the story. If you want
That's
to know.
great. Yeah, that's great. And even for people who are native English speakers and have spoken English their whole life, writing grammar is not the same as normal everyday conversation. And I see so many reviews for newer authors, like you said. Even myself, my very first book that went out, that were just like, the editing, it needs editing. And, oh, we caught these typos and we caught this grammatical error, because as much editing as I did on the last one that came out, in the very first 2 pages, there's a typo that slipped through 5 different people. So, not only are you bilingual and you're writing in 2 languages or 3 languages, but then you're also editing in multiple languages too, and that can be just as hard. One of the questions we got, Ursula, what you said about language and writing in your mother tongue and translation and everything, brought this up. This is from Naughty Zoo on Instagram. It says, I would like to know how much of your work is influenced by the other language you speak, and if they like to include certain words in your mother tongue in your book.
That's a difficult one because I'd like to keep Dutch words out of my English and the other way around. But names, of course, are a different matter. So in the Dutch translation of my Dragon Queen series, the names stay the same, and that's on purpose. Yeah, but other things, no, I didn't. No, I don't. Don't cross over. No. Good question. You're muted.
There we go. Sorry, I was trying to keep the feedback down. Dario, I know you just said you have characters that are Latino and American in yours. Do you feel like Spanish influences your English writing, or vice versa?
Absolutely, Catherine, because I think in Spanish we really. I had this conversation with you in the last fair. I think Spanish literature really gives you really focus on characters and stories that are pretty much based on heart and feelings that are maybe a little bit extreme sometimes. But at the same time, I thought that the American way of writing, or the English in general writing, I thought that maybe some connections were between the two different literatures. So at the end, I think I found the way so many people can connect with that. But yeah, Spanish literature and English writing, it's it are different, but at the same time, I think they are similar because of many things that have in common. So yeah, Catherine, that's the answer.
That's great. And Iris, how about you? Do you carry over names or other words from Spanish into English or from English into Spanish?
Well, I'm Puerto Rican, so we basically talk like that. We mix English with Spanish and vice versa. So in the narrative of the novels, like Pase, I try to keep it like in English or in Spanish, but with certain characters, I have entitled Lorna's the female protagonist is half Puerto Rican from her mother's side, so she learned Spanish from her cradle, and when she gets angry, that side of her surface, and she starts talking in Spanish. So yeah, um, basically, Title Darkness has Spanish phrases, dialogues, and everything because, but it's because of the character. Like she has a deep uh, a deep connection with her Puerto Rican side, and well, she gets she starts insulting in Spanish whenever she gets angry at at her love interest. But but like I said, and the narrative person, no, I try to keep things on English or in Spanish.
Yep. And I see, I'm not sure which point Ayakashi Fox, you said you feel the pain, but I'm guessing yes, because Ayakashi Fox also writes with a Asian influence from other cultures. Like I think the current one I saw was Chinese influenced, I think. Sorry if I got that wrong. There are so many authors in the indie community, which is a great tie in to indie publishing. Indie publishing has opened the doors for authors of other languages and other countries to put their books out in the world that maybe would have once been dominated by a highly English speaking American writer audience if you're in the US or wherever country you are. And that's been fantastic. And if you're watching and you're wanting to see some of these authors' books, I've been dropping their links in the chat. But there's also links in my description where you can check out their Instagram pages and see what books they've already put out and what's coming out. Ursula, you're the very first author I've ever read who primarily speaks Dutch. And I was blown away. I was blown away
Thank
by
you.
what I have read so far because I am a huge Dragonheart the movie fan. So when I saw that you had a book called Dragonheart, I was like, this cover looks cool. This concept is cool. It's not the same story. So if you're watching and you're like, this is Dragonheart the movie, no, it's not. It's not that Dragonheart, but this is really good. It's got a strong main character. Um, Spanish. The first Spanish book I ever read and saw here in the U.S. was by an author named Arturo Perez Reverte, and I loved his books so much. So I was happy to connect with some of the English speaking and English writing Spanish authors too. Um, Ayakashi Fox says, have an egregious error in my first two pages of Origin of the White Wind and found it on the day live of Amazon. I'm so sorry. And the story's Chinese influenced. Yeah, so check out Ayakashi Fox too. So tell us what is coming for 2022. What books do you have in the works? Is this a writing year, a marketing year, a publishing heavy year? Iris, I'm going to let you start and we'll go sort of backwards.
Okay. I'm writing three books this year. It's crazy. Two novellas and one full novel. They basically, one is the continuation of Titled Chapter. The second is a continuation of my Spanish fantasy. And the third one is one that came out of the blue because Wattpad put their open novela contest on, and I fell in love with a prompt of they put and said, no, I have to write a story about this. So yeah, I'm writing three books. Hopefully the novellas will go out this year. The one based on the contest and the one who follows Title Ernest, which is called Angel of My Dark Heart. Hopefully those two will be published this year. December at the latest.
Yay. And Iris, I had a question come in that was specifically for you on social media that was, Iris, would you ever consider doing an international book signing tour in the U.S.?
That it's not crossed my mind yet. I haven't thought that far yet. I'm basically still slowly putting myself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Even when Titled Ernest was released in 2018, but I'm very shy with these things.
Me too. And thank you, if whoever asked, if you're on the live, thank you for your kind comment, because as authors, while I'm also very introverted and very shy, it means the world when people are like, are you going to come do something? But yeah. So Dario, what's coming up in 2022? Ayakashi Fox says he supports that, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, for this year, I'm going to have any new books, such as The Three Wise Young Men, based on the tradition that we have here in Latin America and I think Europe, of the three wise men that gave gifts to Jesus in Christmas Day. So it would be a retelling. It's like our Santa Claus of the Latinos, but they are three people. So I would like to this year to publish that. Other stories that I'm really planning to publish this year are Brigade DXT or Brigade Sports, because it's a story of four people that want to get into the Olympic Games. It's based on my personal experience because few years ago, I really wanted to go to Tokyo 2020, but as a swimmer because I swam. But at the end, because of we didn't have enough money, I left that career and I really focused my my vision into the future of a writer and of as a lawyer. Other book that also I'm planning for this year is Latin dancing. Latin dancing is based of my personal love for Latin music because my mom always, when she was uh, cooking or working, she always put me many Latino songs. But maybe you could realize that always as a 6-year-old kid, I would always hear many Ricky Martin, many Vicente Fernandez music. Also in English because my mom was also in English, an English music lover, and that's the other book I'm planning. It's a story of a girl that gets into the Latin dancing game so she can win a contest so we can find the next Latino talent. It
Wow.
would be a mix between Sword Art Online, a mix between Axel World, and also the Boys that you always watch in NBC, I think, or ABC. I don't know. Another book, the last book I'm going to plan for this year is going to be Codicemex. Codicemex is the story of a kid that helps a goddess from another world, from the Aztec and Mayan world, so she can return to her world that is conquered by an evil goddess called Shalom. And
Yes.
those are my plans. And also, to end, I'm planning the fourth part of the Hurricanes 27 saga. It's going to be titled Shadows of the Darkness. It's inspired of my love for video games such as Gears of War, Halo, Spider-Man: Web of Shadows, that was one of my favorites, and also because Shadow the Hedgehog of the Sonic the Hedgehog series, because I really loved those things. And that's pretty much the plans I have to for this year.
That's great. That is a lot and a lot of different genres, and I'm so excited for the one about the Aztec goddess. I just gotta say, oh, that's awesome. So, Ursula, what about you? I hear a lot of writing from Iris, a lot of writing from Dario. What have you got going in 2022?
I'm actually finalizing Shadow Dragon. So that's book number 5 in Dragon Queen series.
Yay! I hope we didn't lose Ursula.
I think.
Ursula, I think you froze on us a bit. If you can still hear us, and I know Constanza is not on. I think she was traveling, so she might have run into a dead spot where the technology doesn't work. But Constanza has
Bella?
been working on.
Sorry?
Oh, I said you froze up, so I was just filling them in on what
All right.
Constanza was doing.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Constanza is working on a traditionally published version of Battle of the Arathiel, which is her book. She originally wrote it in English. She ran into somebody at a language fair or a book fair of some kind, and they offered to view it with their editor, and then the editor liked it, and the editor wanted to sign it, but they wanted to sign it in Spanish, so they have been translating that for traditional publication. So I linked her stuff too. So Ursula, now you're back. So sorry about the technical difficulties.
Yeah, I'm having.
So you said you were working on the last volume or the 5th book in the Dragon series.
I think we lost her again.
Okay. So sorry, guys. It's been a little glitchy today, it looks like. But when we have people joining from around the world, I think sometimes this comes up more. Oh. But let's give her just a couple seconds while we're waiting to see if Ursula's feed comes back in. Does anybody watching have any other questions, comments for Iris or... And Iris, is it Iris or is it Iris?
Well, it's pronounced Iris.
I'm so
But
sorry.
I don't mind. I don't mind because all the American people always call me Iris.
Okay, I'm so sorry. So, Edie's. I think we've got Ursula back, maybe.
I
Hey, you're
don't know what
back.
happened.
Hey,
No
Yeah.
worries. So, we heard you
Yay.
say you're
I don't know
working
what
on the
happened.
fifth volume.
Well, I'm a bit away, of course. I'm on the other side of the world, so excuse me. Sorry.
It's okay.
So I'm having. Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm having the Dragon Queen series book 5 coming out this year, and I've been writing a short novella, and I'm publishing this year. It's in Dutch and it's via traditional publishing. And another one, which was due to which was due to be published last year, but due to COVID, has been bumped up to this year. So it's Viking based. So yeah,
Ooh,
yep,
very intrigued. I love way more genres than I write. Like, Dario writes all the
yeah.
genres that he loves. I pretty much stay in fantasy, but I love reading other genres, and Vikings is way up there. Um, is
I can
right
show
up there
you.
with
I can
sci-fi.
show you the cover if you like.
Yes.
Yay! So this is just well, yeah, this is going to be the cover. So this is the book.
Very pretty.
So it's Seer's Premonition. That's what it called. And it's 2 stories, Bones and Omen. So it's a kind of a bundle. So this one will be published, I think, in June.
Congratulations. So we had
Thank
2
you.
questions come in, and we're going to run through them pretty fast. I'm going to put them out there, and whoever wants to answer them can answer them because I know we're a few minutes over. So, one is, do you use translators? And if you do, which language do you have the translator translate into? So, English is my main. I write my books in English. I have them translated, thanks to an amazing translator, into Spanish.
Iris, if you want, or Ursula.
well, I write, well, it depends on the story. If I write it in Spanish, well, then I translate it, but I do it myself with help from the online translators. I translated in English. Title Darkness has already been translated to Spanish and it's already up in Wattpad if anyone wants to read it.
And Dario, do you use a translator? Do you do it all yourself?
All by myself, Catherine. I usually write first in Spanish because it's easier for me because it's my main language, and I translate later. When I'm writing in English, I really use grammatic tools such as Grammarly, if you have heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
That really helps me to write better. And also sometimes I use some translators of DeepL for difficult words, but at the end I do myself all the work, and I think it's work. But if in the future I can get another translator or anything, it would be very nice because for me it's easier because sometimes I think I have let down some other fans of the saga because first I write in Spanish and I really took sometime a little bit of time so I can write the English version. Right now, the third part of the Hurricanes 207 is not in English yet because I'm writing, as I told you, the Three Wise Young Men. So please, people, give me a little time because I'm writing many things, but there you can be sure that the story will always be in English because you gave me the first opportunity and I really appreciate it for that, people.
Yeah, yeah. And then the next question was tied into that, which was just if you do translate it, and this is more for Spanish specifically, which version of Spanish do you translate into? Spain Spanish or Mexican Spanish or another form of Spanish? And obviously, this is somebody who knows more of what they're talking about than I did when I started, because when I first went looking for a translator, I had to find one, and she's like, well, I try to write in more of just a standard Spanish that anybody could enjoy, and I didn't realize how much difference, slang was and things like that. So, is there a specific version of Spanish that you write your books in?
I try to write it in a neutral Spanish where all people can enjoy and understand correctly. But yeah, sometimes there's some Puerto Rican Indians and stuff like that that slip in. But yeah, I try to maintain it neutral.
And Dario?
I normally write in Mexican Spanish because Spanish, Spanish. I think it's very different from our writing, because here in Mexico, and I think also in many other Latino countries, we speak different Spanish. For example, we have our own words that only Mexican people understand. I think also in Puerto Rico they have their own words that they only understand. But there are other people, other words that really understand. So I normally write in neutral Spanish, so I can, so many people can understand. Because if I said, for example, Catherine, I said I would like some chuchulucos. Chuchulucos is a word it's a Spanish word for I would like to buy some things, but not many people are going to understand that. So I have to write, I would like to buy some things. No, I would like some chuchulucos. No, no, not many people are going to understand. So I really tried with that. Also, Catherine, sorry about bothering you.
Oh, no.
Ursula is giving us some message in the Instagram
Thank you.
chat room because she's having problems for entering
Oh,
again.
let's see. And we've got one last question I'm going to pull up, and then we're going to wrap it up, I think. But have you tried to write directly in English? And I think I've seen that both of you also write directly. I think, Dario, you said you write in Spanish first, right? And then translate. But didn't you say that you write in English if you're planning on writing it in English?
Yes, if the book is supposed to be in English, I write directly on English because it's less complicated. But I usually write slower in that language, so it takes more time for the stories to be finished and ready to publish. I write very quickly in Spanish.
Yeah. And I write
Um,
directly in English too. If I ever did do Japanese, I would probably still write English first and then translate. Or not even translate. I'm not going to call it translation. I would rewrite a Japanese version.
yeah, for me in this case, I would love to write directly in English, but sometimes of of my because sometimes it's very difficult to think some things in Spanish and later in English. I prefer better to write in Spanish and later in English. But as you can see, I can write with you some things in English and there's no problem. But I normally prefer in Spanish, so I can give it the adaptation to English version, to the English version.
Mhm. Well, thank you all so much. I know this is a very foreign idea, no pun intended, for a lot of indie authors that want to translate their books. They want to put their books out there for a wider audience, but they don't know where to start. Um, and that was really the only other unanswered question that we had. And my 2 cents on that is just look at where your target readers are. Like Dario said, the English audience is what accepted his books first, so he translated Hurricanes 2007 into English and published it in English. The Spanish speaking audience has made up a huge portion of my readership since I launched The Vow That Twisted Fate last year, and I'm so thankful but I also know that nothing beats reading a book in your own language. Like you can read a book in your second language, but it never is quite as easy. So that's what prompted me to do Spanish first, even though Japanese is my second language. Um, so yeah, look at where your target audience is and use that to determine what language you're going to translate into first. Iris, do you have anything to add to that, or
No.
I didn't want to
Um,
cut you off.
I would like to add again, thank you for the opportunity, Catherine. Thank you for having us today. It's a really nice experience. And also, people, you can follow Catherine here in Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, so you can check her work, Iris, also Ursula, also Constanza. You can follow them in their social networks, and also in mine. You can follow me at Hurricane Dario because it's a nickname that I put myself since I was 7 or 8 years old. And also, I would like to tell you that if you have other recommendations of stories, Catherine or Iris, I have a radio program in Canada. So if you want to tell me your book so I can give a shout out in the radio, it's okay. Or people in house, really, I would like to tell you that you can, if Walt Disney said this, if you can do it, if you can dream it, you can do it. So
Hmm.
I think the same. Write
Yes.
what you love,
Yes.
and you will have maybe a great story to tell. I'm really appreciate this opportunity, Catherine, again, and see
Oh,
you
it's
next
my
time.
pleasure. Yes. Thank you all so, so much. Thank you for joining, everybody. Take care.
Take care. See
You
you. Bye.
too.